I wouldn't say it was traumatic. It's actually quite dangerous for both mom and baby. I think this is my water. Hi everyone, and welcome to Vlogmas Day 1. I still can't believe that I am doing Vlogmas this year. Just sitting down filming this already feels so surreal. And not gonna lie, part of me is already kind of anxious about the fact that I'm gonna be editing a video every single day leading up to Christmas. We're gonna take it one day at a time. Since it is the first Vlogmas video of 2024, I thought I would sit down and have a chat and talk about something that I have been promising for well over a year, and that is my birth story. I wouldn't say it was traumatic, but it was definitely dramatic. Been over a year, so things are a little bit foggy, but I will try to talk about it as best I can. Let's get into it. I want to start things off by giving you guys a quick little background leading up to Nathan's birth. Nathan's due date was in October, and all of us were excited because we've got a lot of October babies in the family, and Nathan's due date, give or take a week, was supposedly October 20. Nico and I moved in, and we were still trying to unpack, fix things up, get into a nice little routine and rhythm, and Nico wanted me to rest a few weeks leading up to my due date because I had like some really weird feet swelling towards the latter part of my pregnancy. I was talking to my doctor about it, and she was just like, you know what, let's lessen the salt, let's not walk for too long, because at that point I was doing like morning walks with kebab for like 30-45 minutes. We'd walk around the village. My feet would swell up like crazy. We were also monitoring my blood pressure because we didn't want me to get a condition called preeclampsia. It's basically a condition that some pregnant women get. It's actually quite dangerous for both mom and baby. So we were just being safe and making sure to avoid that. So that was the health aspect. And then Nico and I hired a helper to just clean the house, help me cook, and just help me go about like my day-to-day tasks, because aside from the feet swelling, I was feeling really fatigued. So I was 52 kilos before pregnancy, and then towards the end of my pregnancy, I was almost 65 kilos. I was quite heavy. I felt it. My joints hurt, my lower back hurt. I don't want to go into a lot of details, but basically we hired her and she didn't work. She was dirty, she was lazy, she was busy doing TikToks and sending money to men instead of helping me while Nico was at work. Her bathroom was dirty, her room was dirty. She would hide food in the cabinets downstairs and then it would just rot. And towards the latter part of my pregnancy, I couldn't really go down to inspect. She was causing more stress and harm than she was good. She answered back, she was disrespectful, she was so toxic that we just had to let her go. And she caused such a dramatic scene. And then that night, we decided to head on over to Nico's parents' house. While we were having dinner, we were talking to them about how we were preparing for Nathan's birth. And I even told them, I was like, I'll pack my hospital bag and the baby's hospital bag in the morning just to get it all ready. That was a topic of conversation, us preparing for Nathan's birth in the coming weeks. We get home that night. I want to say at around 12-ish, I woke up because I felt like I needed to pee. So I went to the bathroom, true enough, I peed, went back to sleep. And then at around 12:30, I woke up again, felt like I needed to poop. Sorry, a little TMI. And I was sat in the toilet and nothing was happening. Went back to bed. And then at around 1 o'clock, I had that weird feeling again. I think this is finally the number 2 I've been waiting for. Go back to the bathroom for the 3rd time. And the moment I sit down, I kid you guys not, it was just... And I was like, huh, what? Am I peeing again? But it wasn't stopping, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think this is my water. This might be TMI. If you're like me and you were Googling and reading up your entire pregnancy, I look in the toilet and I'm like, that's my mucus plug. How do I explain this? It's basically like a cork that keeps the fluid so that baby can swim around and be healthy and happy. I'm waiting to start feeling contractions, because you know how like you hear water breaks or whatever, then you start feeling contractions. I wasn't feeling anything yet. I guess I better wake Nico up because this is a little weird. So I opened the door. Room is pitch black. Next, Nico, not a stir. I think my water broke. Like a movie. He rises from the bed. He's like, what now? And I'm like, yeah. So he gets up from bed and he's like all disoriented. We haven't packed. We haven't done anything. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Why don't you go pack your bag? I'm gonna pack my bag and the baby's bag. Okay, I'll do that and I'll prep the car and the car seat and all that stuff. So while he's doing all of that, I go back into the closet. I start packing my hospital bag. And then I start packing Nathan's hospital bag. This is all God, because you guys know me. I'm a very anxious person. I overthink, I overanalyze. line. But in that moment, a wave of calm just like took over, packed everything that I needed. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I took a shower. I shampooed my hair because my thought was, just in case they admit me, I want to make sure I'm clean and I'm ready. So imagine having the presence of mind to not only pack your hospital bag and your babies, but to still take a shower. All gone. I call my OB and she's like, head on over to the hospital. I'll make sure my resident is expecting you. Let's figure this out. Because I explained to her that my mucus plug came out. I think my water broke. So Nico and I pack up the car. I say goodbye to Kebi. We lock up and we drive off. And it's funny, guys, because one of my prayers throughout my entire pregnancy was to start my labor in the wee hours of the morning. I didn't want any traffic. I didn't want us to be stuck in traffic. And true enough, God was like, you know what? I'll grant you that, Karla. We get there, we park. The guard meets us right by the elevator and he's like, "Butis, mga anak?" And I'm just like, maybe. So he puts me in a wheelchair. We head on up. I even took a quick little video. I'll insert it here.
I don't know if this is really happening. Oh my god.
So we get to the reception area and I explain my symptoms and everything like that. They're asking for all my documents. And that's when we realized we didn't bring anything. We didn't bring any of our tests. We didn't bring any of our records. They were like, it's fine. We have your records on hand. So we fill up the paperwork. I meet with her resident. Let's check you. Let's put you in the bed. I already kind of knew that I wasn't going to go anywhere when they put a bracelet on. When I was in that hospital bed, I was still so calm. Like even when they were looking for Nathan's heartbeat and my water was continuously flowing and they were like, okay, we've got to put an IV on you. And I was just like, okay, we've got to put you in a room because you could start contractions at any point and you could start labor at any point. I don't want to traumatize or scare anyone who's maybe pregnant and watching this, but she had to shove her fingers to check if I was dilating. And I swear it felt like her whole forearm was in me. It was so incredibly painful, but that's when she noticed that I wasn't dilating at all, which was a little concerning, which is why they had to put the IV on me and they had to admit me. When they told Nico about it, he thought that they were just gonna give me something and we were gonna go home. He couldn't stay with me in that little room with a curtain because there were other women as well. So that's when he decided to book us a birthing suite, which again, I'm so grateful for my husband because that was really just so that I could have him in the room with me. Once we got admitted, we told our families and everyone was praying and checking in on us. And that's when the waiting game started. What was explained to me was because my water had broken early, they needed to monitor and check for contractions so that they would know whether or not I'd be able to give birth. Keep in mind that this entire pregnancy, I thought that I was going to give birth naturally. That was something that my OB and I discussed. That was something that we planned for. That was something that we wanted and what I was mentally preparing myself for. They didn't want to give me any drugs to induce labor because they wanted to see if it would naturally progress. I was 36 weeks and 6 days in, so I wasn't in the normal safe mark yet. Doctors would come in, nurses would come in round the clock to check. They would ask me, are you feeling any contractions? Are you feeling this? Are you feeling that? And nothing, which was crazy to me because water was just gushing. 6 a.m. rolls in and my OB enters the room. Like a few minutes later, Nathan's future pediatrician arrived. Now, I love Nathan's pediatrician, by the way. He is the best. But this is the first time I meet him. And he's like, hi, Karla, I'm giving you till 12 noon. If you don't feel any contractions, if you don't start dilating, we need to get your baby out because I don't want to risk infection for you or for your baby. And when that was said to me, my heart broke because I knew that I wasn't feeling any contractions. That's when the calm kind of left and the stress, fear, and heartbreak started to sink in. I will always be grateful for my OB because she's honestly one of the kindest, sweetest women in the world. She just comforted me through that entire time. We don't want to get to the point where Nathan will be in distress and then we will have to do an emergency C-section. So kind of see this as a planned C-section because we've got a goal in mind that by 12, if nothing is happening, we will get the baby out. And I just remember crying. And you know, I don't want to sound dramatic. I was really at that point where I was, okay, Doctora, whatever you think is best, just please make sure Nathan will be okay. And true enough, by noon, I hadn't dilated, or maybe I had, but honestly, I feel like I didn't. There were no contractions, nothing. We're gonna do the C-section. And I'm there crying as they wheel me in. I get into the OR and I meet my OB's entire team, which had another OB present and my anesthesiologist and basically everyone there. And I remember I was just crying because again, I didn't want want a C-section. I didn't want to have to be cut open, but that's where we were at. So I had Dr. Joyce, who was my OB, Doc Ancheta, who was her partner, who was also going to be doing the C-section, and then his wife, Dr. Ancheta, who is my anesthesiologist. And I remember I was crying, and then Doc Ancheta was like, oh, don't cry, don't cry. What music do you want to listen to? And I remember Taylor Swift. I don't know why, but they were like, okay, we'll play Taylor Swift. And then I was crying still, and then my anesthesiologist like went up to me, and she had a syringe, I remember, and she was like, oh, don't cry, we're gonna have a party. And then she just injected the syringe into my IV plug. My feet and my legs started feeling tingly, and then I was out. I came to, Nico was there, Nathan was there, and they put him on my chest, and I was just so groggy. I'll insert the video here.
You're gonna sleep first?
That was how it was. Nathan was born September 28th at 1:59 p.m. by a C-section, and we headed back to the birthing suite so that I could rest and recover. And I remember my first meal after giving birth was a Subway sandwich because I had been craving deli meat. We were just basically checking to see that I was okay and that Nathan was okay. Because he was born 36 and 6, they had to run a bunch of tests on him, which was really heartbreaking for me because I felt like I had just gotten my baby and taking him away. But they basically had to check his hearing, his mouth, his tongue, his eyes, his reflexes, and all of that stuff. And obviously everything came back normal and perfectly fine, which was fantastic. 36 and 6 is still kind of counted as, they call it like late premature. Nathan passed all of his tests with flying colors, so we were then transferred to a small private room. And that's when Nico surprised me with my biggest request after giving birth, which was a box of sashimi and sushi. He bought me this giant box of salmon, sushi, and sashimi, and tuna, sushi, and sashimi as well. And we were just eating it together and talking about how we couldn't believe we had a baby. Just when I thought we had been through the most difficult part, came the breastfeeding. I'm not trying to scare any expectant mothers out there. I'm just trying to give you guys a picture of what it was like for me, because again, I didn't get my ideal birth. Number one, Nathan was considered premature, and number two, he was a C-section baby. One of our biggest challenges was breastfeeding, specifically Nathan learning to latch and my body producing milk. Both weren't happening. Nathan didn't really know how to latch deeply and consistently, and my body wasn't producing milk, which was heartbreaking to me because I felt like, number one, I had already failed him by, I'm gonna cry. I already felt that I had failed him by not reaching full term and having to get a C-section. And then I felt like I had failed him again because my body wasn't producing milk to feed him. Medical City has a breast milk bank. We ended up buying a bottle of breast milk, and then one of our nurses, and I will never forget her because she was so sweet and so loving. Her name was Shasha. She was teaching Nico and I how to feed Nathan via a dropper. So we would have to feed him round the clock. And I did a post on this on Instagram. That was probably the toughest time for me in the hospital. Like, I had already forgot the C-section and the pain and the trauma, because I remember Nathan was so small, and just trying to give him the milk from the dropper felt so cruel because it wasn't even my milk. I just kept saying sorry. Oh my god, I can't believe it's been over a year and I'm still getting emotional. For the next 3 days, we had to feed Nathan. So we ended up buying 2 bottles. And then I think on the 3rd day, I felt my boobs start to hurt and I knew something was different. And then the following day, I finally started producing colostrum, which was such an incredible relief. Just to see milk coming out of me was incredible. We were coming from days where he wasn't really latching very well to him being able to latch completely. After that, I felt like I could breathe and things were gonna be okay. Now, because I had a C-section, there were a couple of things they needed to look out for when a woman has a C-section. That's major abdominal surgery. It's the only major abdominal surgery where they want you to walk and stand like a few hours after. The first fear I had after my C-section was they want me to walk. I can barely move. Nobody tells you this. So I'm gonna tell you, okay? If you end up getting a C-section, just be warned. The first time you stand up, at least for me, I felt all of my guts just kind of fall back down because gravity took over, and that was such a weird feeling. The first pee is also really scary. One of the funniest things about getting a C-section is the nurses will come in every single hour and be like, have you farted yet? That was basically a hot topic my entire hospital stay, because they want to make sure that after putting back all of your guts, they want to make sure that everything is working fine and dandy. Recovery wise, I posted it a lot on my Instagram. Is that what you want to say? Sorry, change of scenery, because as you can see, someone woke up from his nap and we've actually gotten ready because we've got lunch with Lala. She's picking us up. Then we're gonna do some groceries. Nico's flight was delayed. I don't know if I said this, but oh, thank you, baby. We're gonna do some groceries, huh? And maybe get some frozen yogurt. So, before I end the vlog, I just want to say to all my mamas out there, whether or not you've already given birth and it was the ideal birth, or maybe it wasn't, just like me, or you're expecting your baby, whether it be your first, second, third, I don't know. I just want to let you know that at the end of the day, God knows what He's doing. And it may not be what you had initially planned, but it's what God wanted. And there are gonna be days, and days can be challenging and tiring and scary and bad, but God is always good, and He's always in all of those days. And I may not have gotten my dream birth story, but I did get my perfect baby. He is healthy. He doesn't look it now, but he is happy. What do you want? You want to hold the camera? He's healthy. He's happy. He's strong. And he is my greatest gift, and my greatest blessing, and my greatest joy. So just know that whatever you're going through right now, this is the after, and it's well worth the tears and the worry and the anxiety. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we will see you tomorrow for Vlogmas Day 2. Say bye-bye. Bye-bye. Say bye-bye.